I think it's way easier to just generally not be hated by half of the people in exchange for having the other half the people really like you. Because then you're walking around the poker room and you just know, based on analytics, that half the people here really hate you.
A late ride, baby. Today, we're picking up somebody who might possibly be the hardest working person in the poker industry. He's written 15 poker books. He's a poker coach. He's a poker player. He's a former WPT Player of the Year. It is Johnathan Little. Let's go get him. Let's talk about New York City for a while. Where are you? So you're from Florida, right? From Pensacola?
Are we recording the show yet?
We are recording all this.
Gosh.
We're on, man.
You better be editing.
This is good.
I'm from Pensacola, Florida, but I live in New York City now.
What was Pensacola, Florida like?
It was like you would expect. It was nice. In my mind, my childhood was perfectly normal. My mom and dad both worked, and I went to school, and that was it, man. Nothing.
Pensacola to me is all I know about Pensacola is my nephew's in the Navy.
Yeah.
And he was stationed in Pensacola for a little while.
They do have a big Navy base, and a lot of people in Pensacola are in the Navy or the Air Force. There's also Air Force Base kind of near there. But my parents were not, and therefore that was not really my life.
Pensacola, less Florida, more south, right?
Yes, it's effectively lower Alabama, but it's a good time. I mean, it was a nice, chill childhood for the most part.
What did your parents do?
My mom was a school teacher for elementary school, and my dad was a lineman who worked on power lines. Likes to take big risks.
Right. Did they play games with you growing up?
Growing up, I played chess with my dad a decent amount. He taught me when I was about 6 years old, and I could beat him shortly after he taught me, so that was cool. And then as I got a little bit older, I found a game called Magic the Gathering, which I played a lot. I would go to Magic the Gathering tournaments 2 or 3 times a week around town, and that's how I discovered poker. One day after a Magic the Gathering tournament, someone wanted to play a poker tournament for a $1 buy-in. We did it. I lost over and over and over again, but I decided it was probably a skill game, so I studied and got good at it.
Talk about, so you played chess. Are you a good chess player?
I used to be a pretty good chess player. I would wake up at 4 a.m. every morning before school and play speed chess online when I was like 12 or 13 or 14.
Wow, okay.
And my rating was like 2,000 online, which is pretty good for a kid. But I never went to tournaments or like played in person or anything like that. And now I'm far worse. Both my kids play chess in school now, and I'm not good anymore. I have no patience. Poker has ruined my patience.
Poker, wow, that's interesting that you say poker has ruined your patience.
Specifically, playing a bunch of tables online has ruined my patience, because when you're playing 16 tables online and you're going click, 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 making all sorts of decisions, many of which are, I guess, not that consequential. Whenever you're playing chess, where I feel like every move is kind of consequential,
right.
It's almost like higher pressure. And chess it causes me anxiety, because you're never going to be good enough, in my mind. As someone who wants to be near the top of any game I play, I will never be anywhere near the top of chess, which means I'm always going to be, call it a loser, right? And you realize this is not how most people view games at all.
It's a zero-sum-thing. You're either the best or you're a loser.
Well, I'd at least like to be kind of near the top, and if there are like kids in my kid's school who can trounce me, I mean, I don't know, what am I doing?
Are your kids better than you already?
No.
Okay.
But if they practice, they probably will be, because I'm practicing little to none, and they're practicing some.
That's fair.
But look, to be good at anything, you have to devote a lot of time and effort to it. And at this point in my life, I don't have a lot of free time to spend learning a new game. And I'm sure if I wanted to spend 4 hours a day playing chess and studying chess, I'd probably get pretty good pretty quickly. But I want to spend 10 minutes every week. And that means I'm going to be bad. If I'm going to be bad, I don't know if I want to be doing it.
Okay, I understand the mentality, right? If you're not going to be good, and you have the self-awareness to know I'm not going to put time into this, why bother at all?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who play games to socialize or pass the time or have experiences, but I get to do all those things not necessarily playing a game, and playing a game where I end up feeling completely incompetent by the end of it is not fun for me.
Okay, I want to circle back to the socializing thing in a second, but before we get to that, you mentioned patience.
Yes,
and you
patience.
mentioned you don't have patience to play chess. Okay, that's fine. But you have, because of online poker, how have you developed the patience to play live poker then, when you're only playing one table at a time and the game is, let's say, it's pretty slow? I mean, it's slower than chess for sure.
It is, but in live poker, I don't know how I do it, but I view it as every single decision I make either makes or lose some lump sum amount of money, right? And if I make a bad play, voluntarily, I am voluntarily losing money. So patience is, in my mind, not the ability to like sit and go fold, 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 but the ability to sit and play well for a long period of time. And I don't know, it is an interesting thing, right? Because I think with chess, I realize it just doesn't matter that much. And if it doesn't matter that much, I really want to be spending the limited amount of complete focus that I have on this thing that doesn't matter that much. But with poker, I realize this is my livelihood. I have a poker training site. I need to have good results so people know I'm decent at poker. So it's very important for me to show up and do my absolute best. And I get what I'm saying is probably completely opposite, like chess, I have no patience. Or,
I mean,
you know what it is with chess? I don't have the patience to sit there and think about a spot for 5 minutes at a time. And I feel like with both chess and poker, I'm pretty good at coming up with a pretty good play, but not necessarily the best play.
Is the financial motivation the difference?
That's another weird thing, because with poker, I can be playing for micro stakes and still play it completely seriously.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I go and do research on you,
yeah,
and I've obviously have known you for a long time. I've commentated with you many times. I've been following your career for a long time. It's amazing to think that you were WPT Player of the Year over 15 years ago.
Long
at this
time
point,
ago,
which is crazy. But I've been following you for such a long time. But still, if I go on if I go on Hendon Mob and I look at your results, it's amazing because I'll see that you've played a $200 tournament 4 days before a $10,000 tournament.
That's a different Johnathan Little. But go ahead.
No,
there are two of them.
Are they, and they're all posted under your name though.
Yeah, there's one other Johnathan Little in the Foxwoods area who sporadically plays, and every once in a while there'll be a $200 cash on my
And
head.
they'll all put on yours?
That's not me. Sorry.
Okay.
That ruined the veil.
No, yeah, I was like, who loves it more than you?
No, at this point in my life, $1,500 tournaments are about as small as I wake up to play.
Okay.
I got stuff to do.
Okay, so listen. Hey, Hendon Mob, let's step it up, okay?
I send him an email.
There are two different Johnathan Littles, okay?
It's hard to know, I know. I send him an email and say, hey, this is not mine, and give it to the other guy. I want him to get credit for his results.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So the poor guy's like, I don't get anything.
Yeah. But like, whenever I make content online for YouTube or my training site, I'll play small stakes sometimes because that's what a lot of people are playing. And I sit there and I play it as if I am playing 100% for real, which I am. I'm trying to win big blinds. I view poker as trying to win big blinds at the end of the day. And I do not care how much money it is. It's my job to make the best decision possible in the situation. And I'm good at doing that over and over again. Whereas with chess, I don't want to sit there and look through a billion different lines to try to find which one is the absolute best when I'm probably going to screw it up anyway. And maybe that's the patience I'm referring to, is the ability to sit and focus on a problem for a long period of time, come up with a play that might not even be the right play and has a tiny bit more equity than the other. Like with poker, if you raise to 2.2 big blinds or 2.3 big blinds, it just doesn't really matter, as long as you're raising with the right hand, right? Or say you have a hand where you can check raise sometimes or check call sometimes. It doesn't really matter what you do if you're trying to be balanced.
Well, I feel like with solvers now, I'm like, I can kind of make any play here and just be like, yeah, well, 11% of the time I'm supposed to do this.
It's actually the thing is that most plays are kind of reasonable. Whereas in chess, most plays are horrible. And the ones that are...
I just blundered my queen again. Why did I do that?
Yeah, the ones that are better are often like a decent amount better. And that's... if you can't find it, it's frustrating. I don't like being frustrated. I'd rather be happy in life than frustrated.
Okay, I like that. Okay, well, listen, if you are defining as patience as spending time trying to figure out a problem and all these different things, I'm going to throw my problem at you.
Oh boy, here we go.
Okay, so when you research Johnathan Little, not only do you find out what the Johnathan Little in Foxwoods is doing, you also find out about you.
Sure.
Right? And I go on your Instagram. I go on your YouTube channel. I go on your Twitter page or your X page, whatever you might call it, right? I read your books. I go on your website, your own personal website. I go on your coaching, all these things, and it's poker. It's poker. It's poker. And then once in a while, there's NFT poker, right?
Yeah.
I want to get to know you. Who are you? I mean, is there somebody besides Johnathan Little poker player, Johnathan Little poker coach, Johnathan Little poker author? 14 books. I mean...
15.
15 now.
Yeah.
Sorry, pardon me. 6 best-selling.
Old information.
This is insane. No, but who is Johnathan Little, the person?
So I have 2 kids and a wife. Whenever I'm home in New York City, I pretty much spend all of my free time with my family. And I'm at home probably 3 weeks out of 4 on average. Sometimes more, sometimes less. So I'll wake up at 6 a.m., make breakfast for my kids, get them off to school. And then from like 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. when my wife is working, I'll be working in my office, taking care of whatever poker coaching type stuff I need to be doing.
Coaching,
making content,
right.
all of that, the whole poker stuff. And then the kids come home from school. We'll usually do homework, play some games, whatever. Then they'll go to bed. Then I'll hang out with my wife for an hour or 2. Then it'll be time to go to bed. And that's my Monday to Friday. On Saturday and Sunday.
How old are your boys now?
7 and 5.
Okay, it's a fun age.
On Saturday, currently, they both have basketball during the day, which takes up a lot of the day. So.
Are you the coach?
No. I'm away too much to be the coach. I would be the coach,
okay.
But I don't think it's responsible for the coach to be gone 1 or 2 weeks per month. Probably not ideal. And I don't know how to play basketball. So.
Minor details.
I figured I'd figure it out. It can't be that hard. Saturdays are often, well, look, Saturdays and Sundays are both pretty much the same. We wake up, we go to the diner. We have the same diner we go to every Saturday and Sunday and have scrambled eggs and stuff like that. So that's fun and good. And then they go do their basketball stuff. We'll take a nap on Saturdays and Sundays. I've somehow still had both kids taking a nap, so I get to take a nap. It's mainly for my benefit, I think. And then we'll hang out in the afternoon.
And naps are 100% for parents.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Look, I think sleep is super important. I make a point to sleep as much as I possibly can. And I want my kids to sleep as much as they possibly can. So anyway, like all of my spare time at home is spent hanging out with the family, pretty much. And when I'm traveling to play poker, there's not really a whole lot of spare time. Like for this Poker Go series, I'm here playing the Poker Masters right now. Tournaments start at noon each day. I'll make a point to try to sleep until like 11 o'clock or so, as late as I possibly can, because you never know how late you're gonna have to play. I think they play until roughly 2 a.m. if you're in it till the end of the day.
Right, which is the plan.
Which is the plan. I mean, often it doesn't happen, but it's the plan. And so I need to make sure I'm able to stay up until 2 or 3 and be in pretty good shape, right? And that kind of entails getting on that type of sleep schedule. So last night I was finished kind of early. I went to sleep at 10 o'clock and I slept until about 10 a.m. Full 12 hours of sleep. Yeah, full 12 hours of sleep. And I'm good to go, because tonight I may not get a lot of sleep, or maybe I will. I don't know. I try to stock up on sleep as much as I possibly can.
So when you're home with your family, how many hours a night do you sleep?
I try to get asleep by about 10:30 and we wake up at about 6. So 7.5 hours.
That's good for a parent.
7.5 hours plus about an hour and a half nap Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. Anybody watching this right now who has little kids is thinking, going 7.5 hours. Oh, it's like a dream.
Yeah. So, what do? I don't know. Deal with the family is kind of the answer. I mean, for the whole last month,
you and your kids play games?
We play a lot of games.
What's currently their favorite games?
Their favorite game is a game called Hearthstone Battlegrounds on the iPad. It's a kind of like a card game, an auto battler. I don't know if that means anything to anybody. I like Hearthstone Battlegrounds a lot. That's kind of my guilty pleasure whenever I'm doing something on the computer that requires almost no thought.
Right.
And I will play that on the side. It's a game that you're kind of like playing half the time and not playing half the time, so there's free time. And it's fun. It's a strategy game. So I like that a lot. They like that a lot. I've used that to help them learn how to do math and to read, because when they first started playing, they couldn't read or do math, and now they can.
You know, my wife used, it's kind of funny, during COVID, my older one now, she was trying to teach him how to read really well, so they started playing Zelda.
Yeah.
And you had to read all the things.
Sure.
She was like, I'm not helping you. And he was so motivated to learn how to read because of that.
Well, my first son, I taught him with Pokemon cards, card game, because he came home with Pokemon cards. I'm like, oh, how do you know what these are? He's like, oh, they have them at school. And I asked if anyone plays. He's like, oh, no one knows how to play. I'm like, oh, I'll teach you how to play. So we played, and he learned to read all of those words, and then my wife was annoyed because he only knew Pokemon card words, half of which are not real, but whatever, he figured out how to read and do a little bit of math, right? And I think games are good for that kind of thing.
They're great. Hey, listen, my wife's a literacy teacher, and she will tell all the kids and the parents, I don't care what your child reads, as long as they're reading. I
generally agree.
So
we play...
Especially at the young ages where you're learning how to read.
Right. We play chess. We play other games like Sorry or Clue, random board games.
Right.
They play Uno. They like Uno a lot.
I can see your kid just going,
They,
Dad did it with the candlestick in the study.
Yeah.
Right?
I actually never played Clue as a kid, so I like barely know how to play that game. In terms of, whenever I played games as a kid, I'd either like play it a ton or play it none. So
I can see that about you.
yeah, I mean, kind of like chess today, right? I just don't really want to do it because I know you got to do it a ton, and I don't want to.
Were you
I don't
the
have time
type
to do
when
it
you
a ton.
played a game as a kid? Obviously, you were great at Magic the Gathering, but were you the type where if there was a game that somebody introduced to you that intrigued you, you would analyze it to the point where you figured out a way to kind of just like beat it? Like, okay, I need to know every in and out of this particular game.
I think I'm kind of like I am today in that I made a point to not get into too many games unless I thought I had time to devote to it.
Even as a kid?
Even as a kid.
Wow.
Because I don't like being bad at stuff. I guess that's it. I don't like being horribly bad at things. And a lot of poker players, I feel like especially mixed game players, are really good at figuring out new games on the fly.
Yeah?
But I'm not so good at figuring out new games on the fly. I have to sit down and grind at it for a while. I mean, if I have one real good skill that's better than most people, it's my ability to sit down and grind it out for a long amount of time and then get good at it. Not because I'm some sort of genius, but because trial and error and studying and learning. And
so would you say that one of your strongest attributes is your work ethic?
yeah, definitely. Which is fine and good.
Yeah.
I'm not the smartest person here, and I'm not any sort of game genius or anything, but I can figure it out.
And I'm just going to outwork you.
I'm good at working. Yes, I think I probably outwork most people. But it's because, to be fair, a lot of the work that I do is fun. Like, that is what is enjoyable to me, is putting in time and effort and getting good at something.
Is it still enjoyable today? I mean, 15 books later and coaching poker, and I mean, this is, obviously been your life now.
Yeah.
And, you've been playing poker and coaching poker for more than half your life.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Is it still enjoyable?
It is, but I think it stayed enjoyable because I do it in so many different ways, right? Like whenever I come out to Vegas to play poker, I'll play poker for a lot over the course of a week or so. Mm-hmm. And then I'll be done for 3 weeks and play almost none. Or when I'm writing a book, I'll write a book a lot over the course of a month, but then after that I'll be done. Or making training videos, I'll do that for 1 or 2 days a week, or I'll batch it and do a bunch of it in a week and then none for like a month. So I don't really get burnt out from anything, to the point that I can kind of wake up, look at my mile-long to-do list, pick one of them that I want to do that day, and then do it with passion. And then you don't really get burnt out. But what a lot of poker players do that does get them burnt out is they show up and they play poker all day, every day, and it becomes monotonous, right? But if you change it up, it does not get so monotonous.
I like it. Okay, so
like imagine you had to sit in this car and talk to people all day, every day.
That's what I do.
For 10 years.
Ah!
It might get a little old, even if you're talking to the most interesting people. Eventually you start running out of interesting people and you have to talk to people like me. And you're like, okay. Another John's a little bit
I
in
have
the car.
been looking forward to talking to you for a while. Okay, so you brought up socializing.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of started to delve into your childhood, but not much.
Sure.
As a child, did you have a lot of friends? Were you popular? Or
not so many friends, and I think I had a lot of like acquaintances, right? Like everybody generally liked me, but I didn't have too many great friends. Like I didn't go to parties or anything like that so much.
Were you quiet?
I was generally quiet, yeah, generally shy, probably generally reserved. And to be fair, I think I am today too, especially when I'm in environments where I don't really know what's going on. I mean, people see me talking a lot on the internet about poker, but that's because I know about poker. I don't talk a whole lot about things that I don't know about.
By the way, I'm amazed by that. So there's a lot of people out there that use social media and YouTube for their work.
Sure.
There's nobody I know who I couldn't find one post, not one Instagram post, not one Twitter tweet post, okay? I couldn't find one that wasn't poker. Not one where it was like, went to see a show with my wife. It was the most amazing show ever. Oh, had this meal on the east side. It was so good. Nothing about your favorite sports team. It was just poker.
I don't have a favorite sports team because sports take a lot of effort to pay attention to.
Okay, no sports.
And I might bet on it and lose all my money.
Okay.
Don't need that. But also I think it's important to stay generally focused. I also think if you're in a business...
You're not generally focused. You are laser focused.
Yeah. I think it's probably a good thing.
Okay.
Going back to being able to sit down and do the work and focus on stuff. I'm pretty good at it when I need to be or want to be. But, I mean, there are two different things here. One is like showing my private life, which I do a little bit. I'd have a morning show on YouTube on Monday mornings when I'm at home from 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. And we just kind of get on there and talk about stuff that's happening. I'll usually have some sort of topic that I'll loosely follow, but that was designed to make me look like a real person to some extent, as opposed to just a robot that only talks about poker.
Was that your idea? Or was it
was my idea.
Okay.
It's important to be personable, but at the same time, you don't want to necessarily turn people off in some weird way you can't even foresee. Like, politics are happening right now, right? If you start talking about politics, whether you are to the left, to the right, in the middle, apathetic, whatever, that's going to make some people not like you. So, no matter where you are. So, do I want to do things that are going to make people generally
even if you're
not
the most
like
sensible,
me?
reasonable person in the world, there's no way you're not going to piss somebody off.
Right. Which is weird. And it's weird that you're going to piss off some amount of people, no matter where you are. And I'd rather just not engage with that. Or with sports. Imagine you really like one team. It just might make the people who like your rivals in whatever sporting event that is just generally have a negative view towards you. As silly as that sounds, they just may not like you.
Is it important for you to be liked, or I'll rephrase this, to not be unliked?
Well, look, if you're running a business where your whole business is helping people enjoy their hobby and or job more, I think you want to generally have a likable presence as opposed to a antagonistic presence. And I mean, there are different ways to go about getting people to like you, right? I mean, one is try to have everybody like you within reason, or try to have people rally around your hatred towards other things. And people in the poker space go about it in very different ways. And I think it's way easier to just generally not be hated by half of the people in exchange for having the other half of the people really like you. Because then you're walking around the poker room and you just know, based on analytics, that half the people here really hate you.
It's kind of funny. You bring this up, and I can't help but think of Doug Polk.
Sure.
And Doug built a very successful, profitable training site, poker training site. Mm-hmm. But in many ways, and I like Doug, but I've talked to him about this, but a lot of times he built that off of, in a way, being antagonistic toward many others. Whether it was Jason Mercier way back in the day, whether it was my friend Bart Hansen, whether it was Daniel Negreanu. And obviously that was, I guess, one way to go about doing it, and it worked for him, and you've gone the other complete opposite way.
There are all sorts of ways to get the job done. And I mean, I don't know. I like walking around in public and not having people want to attack me or be mean to me. I'd rather people be nice to me and want to help me. All of them. And even then, some people still don't like me, and I try to be nice. So, look, you're always
I have never heard anybody say they don't like you.
There's plenty of people on the internet who don't like me.
Well,
I don't know how or why, but they don't. So, you just have to figure out what you're trying to accomplish at the end of the day and the route you want to go about it. I do think it's probably easier to do the method of trying to tear down some people who some people, like a decent amount of the population generally doesn't like anyway, because it's something that people are already emotional about and you can already latch yourself onto it. Whereas trying to help people, it takes a long time to help people over time.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like Doug Polk has helped plenty of people with poker. Like, he has a training site, right? So he is maybe speaking poorly about some people, but also helping out a lot of people. So it's like he has this crew, the people who are his people. And to make money on the internet, you just need people to love you and want to give you money. And he's done a good job of it.
I've heard many poker players talk about how at one point in their life they've gone broke. Have you ever, as a poker player?
I've gone kind of close to going broke once. I guess I wasn't totally broke. So I was maybe 19 years old, and I had something, I'm going to get these numbers slightly off. Let's say I had $100,000 to my name from playing sit and goes, which is pretty good.
At 19 years old, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to move out of my parents' house, and so I bought a condominium. I think I put maybe $30,000 down, so I had $70K left. Then I immediately lost like 50 of it online, playing slightly higher than I was playing, because back then they had $200 sit and goes, but then they introduced $500 buy and sit and goes. So the game just got bigger, right? So my bankroll got 40%ed just because I'm playing higher stakes. So had 100, spent, or at least locked up 30. I could have sold the place and got the 30 back, but you don't really want to sell your condominium as soon as you buy it. So 30's gone, I lose 50, I have 20 left. Okay, so 20K is maybe barely enough to play $200 sit and goes or $100 sit and goes. What I decided to do instead was go and play $10 buy-in sit and goes and make a point to win 100 buy-ins at every buy-in level to just kind of prove I'm actually good at poker. Because right then I still didn't really know if I was good at poker or not, because I was only 19 and I'd only been doing it for 6 months or a year.
That's so disciplined, especially at that age, because most people, when they lose, the idea of dropping down in stakes is just horrifying to them, because they're like, no, but I just lost a bunch of $500 sit and goes. For me to make, I have to make that back, and I can't make that back in $11 sit and goes.
So I was already thinking in terms of buy-ins back then. I was not thinking in terms of dollars really. I didn't really need the money for much of anything. I mean, I didn't cash out any money until I needed that 30K, which was kind of weird, right? Because I was living with my parents. I had no real expenses. I probably spent $300 a month. Like, I literally sat in my room and played poker all day, every day, and studied poker all day, every day. And so I had no expenses, and I didn't need money, and it was just all sitting online. So it was just a number in an account.
What did your parents think about it all?
I'm sure they thought it was a bit of a whirlwind once they realized I was actually decent at poker. Like, they saw me playing games in my room, right? They didn't really know I was playing.
They realized you were playing
poker
for money?
Yeah, I think they realized when I started getting all these like player rewards. Like, one time they mailed us 4 big screen TVs that I got because that was like the best value for frequent player points.
They didn't just assume that you were like, are you selling drugs?
They're like, what is this? 4 TVs came, and it's like, oh, it's weird. So, no, they recognized I was playing poker, and I kept really good track of all of my results. But I moved back down to the small stakes games because I didn't know if I was going to go back to college at that point. Like, I could still take the money, go back to college, and have a regular college existence, right? So it was not clear to me that I was going to be a professional poker player. It was more like, I've been playing this game and I've made good money from it, and I've got a down payment on a place. Worst case, $20K left, go back to school,
so you were trying to figure out if you were just like, right, was I just running hot before and I got lucky, or am I actually pretty good?
Yes, and
which is very wise beyond your years.
Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I've always been pretty frugal with money in general. Maybe not so much today, but I was always frugal back in the day, spending money, because I guess I didn't know where I'd get any more. I mean, I didn't really have a job that made good money, and I was going to college to be an engineer, which is going to pay okay, but I don't know. Don't like giving away the money too much unless I think it's worth it. Worth it's a funny thing, but unless I think it's worth it.
Besides being a poker player and a poker coach and a writer and all these different things, have you had other jobs?
So my first job was at McDonald's, working in the kitchen and then working at the front desk, and they wanted to make me a manager, but I quit right around then to go work at an airport where I fueled up airplanes. And I made a point to work the graveyard shift because not a whole lot of airplanes would come in at night, which would allow me to study poker all night by reading books and whatnot. And eventually I started downloading a poker site and playing poker.
Is this in Pensacola?
Yes, okay. Playing poker at the airport at night when there was nothing going on. But every once in a while, somebody would come in and need gas at 3:30 in the morning, and I'd have to leave my sit and goes and go play or go deal with a job. And that happened a few times, and every time that happened, I'd lose $800 because I'd be in 4 sit and goes. But if I'm getting paid $10 an hour to work this job and I'm losing $800 once a week, it doesn't really work out.
No.
So I had to quit that job to play poker.
Did you like that job?
It was fine. I've always liked pretty much every job I've had.
You like working at McDonald's?
Yeah, it was fine.
It was fine?
I think a lot of people have a pretty low tolerance for any amount of stress. Okay. Like, working at McDonald's, everyone was stressed out around there. They thought they had the most difficult job in the world, and I viewed it as the easiest job in the world. I mean, like, literally, thing comes up, make thing, send it out. Sometimes you get a little behind.
I've never worked at McDonald's, but I would imagine that it's all right there to tells you exactly what to do, right?
Yes. Sometimes you go slower than you should. Sometimes things break, but whatever, it's not hard. And at the airport, a lot of people get stressed out at the airport. I also thought it was not hard. Somebody comes in, they want you to put gas in their plane. You do it, you're done. And you try to give good customer service and try to make people happy, and you got to deal with people in both jobs, but I did not view those as stressful like a lot of people did. And for that, maybe that's just something natural to me, and maybe that's one of the reasons I have liked most jobs that I've had.
Well, I wonder if it's one of the reasons why you're so successful at poker. It's just, you seem so, I'm just saying on the outside, and I don't know how many people really outside of your family know you that well. I feel like I said, I feel like I've known you for 15, 20 years, and I don't feel like I know you, And I just wonder, I'm like, it doesn't seem like you ever get that high or that low. You're so even keeled.
That is probably a problem.
What stresses you out? When do you get anxious?
anytime finances get dicey, I get a little bit anxious, right? One time I had to pay a lot more taxes than I thought I did because I did well at NFTs and I lost a bunch of money at NFTs and I had a humongous tax bill out the door. That was stressful. So that caused stress. I don't know, that's about it. Well, I mean, look, if you go and you play a poker tournament series and you lose all your money, that's always annoying and stressful, but that's more of like annoying than stressful.
You seem so matter of fact about it. Like, lost a bunch of all-ins. Today wasn't my day. I'll try again tomorrow. Like,
yeah.
That's it.
That's it. What else are you gonna do? What good does it do to throw the mouse through the wall or
No, I understand.
go and binge drink all night? What good does this do you?
Do you have a vice? Is there ever a time where you just get, is there something that pisses you off where you want to throw the mouse through the wall?
I mean, it sounds bad, but not really. I mean, look, I used to...
That doesn't sound bad. I want to know you.
I used to not like when people were horribly incompetent at their jobs, but I have mellowed out on that because I realize most people are trying their best or they just don't care or whatever. But everyone's not always going to do a good job, and that's okay. Like in my company, I expect everyone to do a good job, and I don't hire people who I don't think are going to be doing a good job, but that's not how some people operate, right?
Right.
And that's okay. A lot of stuff is okay. I always ask myself, is this a big problem or a small problem? And almost every problem is a small problem.
You're like the poster boy for like, don't sweat the small stuff.
It's true, and like everything is small stuff. Pretty much. I mean, unless you're gonna go to jail or lose all your money, you're probably gonna be all right.
Is your wife, are your kids, are they like you? Or are they even killed, or are they a lot more emotional?
Everyone's a lot more emotional in general.
Okay.
I mean, I'm trying to teach them. I think playing a lot of games as a kid and winning and losing a lot helped me with that. Like the other day I was streaming some online poker and one of my kids came in the room and I'm like, yeah, I just lost this hand. He's like, oh no. He's like, how much did you lose? I'm like, $350. He's like, oh no. I'm like, oh, it's only 7 big blinds. It's not a big deal. He's like, 7 big blinds. Oh. And I'm like, buddy, I'm gonna lose a lot of hands. And I think getting, like beaten up a lot in games where sometimes you just lose is very beneficial to people who realize sometimes you're going to lose, and that's okay. There was a 2+2 post a long time ago on this old forum that's pretty defunct now, where...
Is 2+2 still good, or no?
Oh, I haven't
way back in the
years.
day, it used to be great.
It used to be great.
Yeah.
I mean, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a guy named Irie Guy who made a post about sit-and-goes, and he said something along the lines of, at some point you're going to run far worse than you ever thought you could possibly run. And it's true. And once you realize that you are going to go on big downswings, you're going to go on big upswings, you got to make sure you're planning for the big downswings. And when you're in the big upswing, stockpiling for the inevitable big downswings. And it's going to happen. And when I play poker today, and when I go and play a tournament, and let's say I win it for 500K, I don't view it as, yes, I just made 500K. I view it as I showed up, played my tournament, I extracted my EV, which would be 15% return on investment or whatever, and that's it. I'm done. Win or lose. And like today, I'm going to play a $10,000 tournament. Maybe I make 10% or 15%, maybe. So say I make $1,000 today on average.
So your attitude is just, since you're going to work,
yeah,
you're making, let's just say for argument's sake, you're making $1,200 today.
Sure.
No matter what.
Yeah.
You might not collect it today, you may collect it today, who knows, but you're making $1,200 because you went to work today.
I'm definitely not going to collect exactly $1,200 today, I can tell you that.
Exactly.
Did somebody just get hit?
Somebody just got hit. It wasn't me, though, which is the good news.
So far, we've seen 5 police trucks on the side, somebody getting arrested, and then we saw somebody get hit. All right, Las Vegas.
But hey, it's not me. That's the important thing, okay?
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of how I view poker in general, and I think that's a good way to view it. The problem is I think a lot of people need to be amped up to show up and actually focus.
Right.
Whereas I don't really think I get anywhere near 100% focus when I'm playing poker, but it's like 90%, which is good enough. And it's like 90% all the time.
But I feel like 90% of your focus is like 184% of everybody else's focus.
Maybe it is. I'm not sure. But I think a lot of people, when they do feel amped up or maybe slightly emotionally involved, they can focus a little bit better compared to if they just don't care at all. Kind of like when people play tiny stakes poker, some of them just completely goof off and go nuts. And that just like does not compute for me.
Does it bother you if people on the internet or people think you're robotic?
No, because I think I am generally robotic.
Okay.
I think being...
You're so fucking self-aware, it's amazing.
I think being regimented is smart. Like sleep schedule in Las Vegas, right? Like I make a point to stay up till about 1 or 2, if at all possible, if I'm already very well saturated in sleep. And if I'm not very well saturated in sleep, I'm going to bed as soon as I can. And it's just like a math equation, right? Like I want to wake up and do this interview with you today. I know I need to go to bed kind of early. I know I'm already kind of tired because I'm off my sleep schedule. And it's just, you got to do what you got to do to get the job done.
So if the tournament doesn't go well today, are you going to walk out of the Poke and Go studios and go, fucking Tubman made me do this? It's his fault.
No, you have not impacted my poker play at all today. I do not attribute any wins or losses to you.
I'll take credit for it if you do well.
If I win, it's all you. If I lose,
yes,
it's all me.
The question I have for you is, I think for a lot of people it's a threshold of like, you're an adult now.
Yeah.
There's nobody looks at a 40-year-old and goes, yeah, you're 40, right? You're a dad, you've got a successful business. What's next? I mean, you've written 15 books, you've got 6 bestsellers, you've been a WPT Player of the Year, you've got over $9 million in lifetime earnings, right? You're bi-coastal-ish, we'll say. I know Vegas is not on the coast, but you know what I mean. We're on both sides of the country.
Yeah.
What's next? Where do you see yourself in 10 years, 15 years?
I have this issue where I don't really know what I want a lot of the time. I have good trajectories, but I don't really know necessarily where I am going. I mean, my wife asked me this the other day, like, what do you want to do for your birthday? I'm like, I have no idea. And like, what are bucket list items? I have no idea. Like, I don't know.
No?
I really don't. It's bad. Like, I need to probably work on this because it's probably good to want to do things, but I don't really want to do anything. What I want to do now is just chill and relax because I think the kids wear me out. And where am I going? I don't know. I want to do better. I mean, so look, I realized a long time ago I'm not going to be able to devote my entire life to studying and playing poker like young kids are doing because they have no family, and family takes a huge amount of time and effort. That's part of the reason why I started my poker training site and really ramped it up whenever I had kids, was because I wanted to make sure I could hire the best players in the world to essentially teach me and keep me at least somewhere near the top, right?
Right.
And
I get that.
I think it's important to study as smartly as you can, and getting the best players to tell you everything they're learning, or the most important things they're learning from all their study, is highly valuable. And then we pass it on to all the students at pokercoaching.com. But I mean, look, make training site better, ramp that up, do better at poker. I mean, I've made a point to play poker a little bit more as the kids have gotten a little bit older, because now they're at school a lot of the time during the day, right? Whereas in the past they would just be home all day and I'd hang out with them all day. So over the last year, I've played a decent amount more poker than I did before that. And it's been nice. I mean, I've had some decent results. I won what was that thing I won? I already forgot what it's called. The Poker Go Cup.
Yeah.
I won that at the beginning of the year.
You crushed Poker Go. The Poker Go events this year. I mean, I'm actually feeling pretty good about your chance at the Masters. I know there's no rational, reasonable reason to think people run hot in poker. I know that's not a thing.
Well, you either are or you aren't, but you can't pick when you're going to be running.
Right,
or not.
but I feel like there is something to it where, you just string things together, you're feeling a little more confident, maybe you just trust your reads a little bit more.
I don't know, man. I feel like I show up and play the same pretty much every time.
Yeah. If I asked you 15 years ago, hey, where do you see yourself when you're 40? Do you think you would have seen this?
Probably, roughly. I mean, because that's kind of the trajectory I was on, right?
Okay.
I already was working in the training space.
Right.
I was playing poker. Probably going to have kids at some point. And here we are. I mean, ideally I have kids.
I just wonder if, like, 15 years from now, you're going to have 21 books written and... you're just going to be training and you're going to be coaching and you're going to have, instead your kids will be, 22 and 20.
Well, I don't really know what else I could be doing. That's the problem, is I don't really have a whole lot of other logical skills that can also make good money. So, I mean, look, I'm always trying to branch out and look at other stuff. Like, I invest in a lot of startup companies, and I like art a lot. I have a pretty decently big art collection, and
I mean, I was checking out the poker NFTs, which is quite cool.
Yeah, fun stuff.
Was that was that more of just for fun, or did you actually think of that as like, wait, I can make some money off this?
Everything I get into is usually for fun, but it also has the potential for profit if you're good at it and you like it and whatnot.
That's...
And I think everything I pretty much get into has some financial aspect into it, for whatever reason. Just because if you play a game or do a thing and you can't make any money from it, unless you really love it, why are you doing it? I mean, so I make a point in life to try to do things that are either going to make me a lot of money, or make me a lot smarter, or make me a lot happier. One of the three. And ideally, it hits all three.
Do you take pride in when your students win?
I don't know if I take much pride in anything. I think I try to generally be kind of humble. I mean, I'm happy when people win. I'm happy for them. I don't know, but like whenever people win at poker, even if they give me some of the credit for studying my stuff, I realize at the same time they had to show up, they had to work, they had to study, they had to put in the volume, they had to put up the money. That's their win. If they want to credit me for helping them, though, I'm happy to take the credit. I try to generally not be so prideful, though.
So let's go back to, you jumped up in sit and goes. Mm-hmm. You went from $200 sit and goes to $500 sit and goes, and whether you weren't as good as you thought you were, or whether you just ran bad, for whatever reason, you started losing.
Sure.
And you decided to take the very disciplined route and drop down to the $11 sit and goes and make sure that you could win and win and win and prove to yourself that you could actually do this.
Yes.
What was plan B if you couldn't do it?
Go back to school.
And do what? Like what would
finish college?
And then what would Johnathan Little be doing if Johnathan Little was not a poker coach and an author and a player?
I don't know. I was initially going to college to become an engineer, and then when I started playing a lot more poker, I transitioned to psychology because I thought it'd be easier, because the engineering track was apparently too difficult for me when I was playing poker all day every day. And then I was making too much money from poker, so then I quit altogether. I had to presume I'd probably go back and get some sort of engineering degree, just if I had to guess, and I guess I'd be an engineer today, building stuff.
Is the building aspect of it more fun than the managing aspect of it?
The managing of what?
Well, I'll give you an example. So my dad had a business in Manhattan for many, many years. And I asked him, I said, did you like your job? And he goes, He goes, but I loved building it.
Sure.
I loved the excitement of growing the business.
Yeah. Number goes up. It's good.
What about for you? I mean, is it the building part of it that gets you going, or do you just like having it and maintaining it?
Well, so I have two guys.
So many different businesses, yeah.
Well, in terms of poker training side, I have two guys who basically run the company for me, and I make sure they do a good job. I do not like following up with all the coaches to make sure we have content on specific topics that I want to get done, and making sure people show up to webinars on time, and dealing with payroll and all of this stuff. I don't really like that, so I have somebody else that does it, right? So I am able to do everything at the business, but at the same time, I'd rather be doing other things that I'm uniquely qualified for, like making the content. So I found my role in the company as effectively content creator and curator, and I let other people do things that either I don't really want to be doing or things that they are better than me at doing.
Very quickly before I drop you off at your poker tournament, where you're clearly going to extract your $1,200 of value today.
I'm going to get $500K today.
Go get it. I like it. The state of poker. Mm-hmm. How have you seen it change? How hard is it to win today compared to when you won WPT Player of the Year?
I think all games generally get tougher over time, and that's especially true at places where people play competitively. I definitely think small and medium stakes poker, especially live and online to some extent, is still quite soft, to the point that if you study a decent amount and put in a decent amount of volume, you'll be able to win. At the highest stakes tournaments, I think the games are quite difficult unless you find stakes so high such that a lot of the okay poker pros no longer play. Like some of these Triton tournaments seem to be quite soft even at the very, very highest stakes. Sometimes. Depends on who shows up, right? So I think poker has definitely gotten tougher over time, but at the same time, the smaller games they're still quite good. Do you have any other questions?
I mean, I could talk to you for hours.
I don't know if I'm actually that interesting.
I think you're very interesting.
I think I show up and do the work. I think it's very important to show up.
But to me, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that have so many things, and there are so very few people that just show up and get the work done. You know? And to me, it's amazing. Like I said, it's just amazing to me that, year after year, day after day, you just show up and you do the work. And to have the mentality to do that, I think is quite impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my parents gave me good work ethic in general. And like I see, especially in the poker space, a lot of people get into poker because they want freedom in terms of their time.
Right.
They don't want to work a job. Whereas I never really mind working a job. I'm perfectly fine showing up when I say I'm going to be there and doing whatever I say I'm going to do. And if I don't want to do that or I can't agree to that, then I don't do it. I don't agree to it, right? But like this interview today, 10:30, 10 o'clock, whatever we decided, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be here, which means planning a little bit ahead of time, making sure I'm in good shape. You know, I'm not super tired or whatever. And
right, you didn't get into poker for freedom. You got into poker because you said, I like games,
yeah,
and I can make money doing this.
Yes. I did not get into it for freedom.
But if anything, it gave you less freedom. I mean, you might be, listen, people have told me when I commentate 35 days in a row, they're like, oh, you're the hardest person working, hardest working person in poker. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not even close. But I look at you, and I know people say this too often, but I look at you and I look at 15 books and your YouTube site and your coaching and NFTs and then you play still and you're a dad. I'm going, okay, Johnathan Little might just be the hardest working person in poker.
You got to make good use of your time at the end of the day, right? This like the most limited resource, and you're not going to get any more of it, so you got to make good use of it. And I try to do my best with that.
Hey, I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And yeah, well, you guys can follow him, by the way. By the way, how did you get that site?
What's
Coachingpoker.com.
Poker coaching.
Pokercoaching.com.
I got it from my first poker coach, an old dude named Bill Seymour. He bought it in 1995, and he effectively retired and wanted me to have it. I paid him some money, but
right. I mean, it's such like the
it's
best site ever.
It's a good name.
Like you could probably sell that site for a lot of money.
I'm not going to sell the site for a lot of money. There's a lot of value in having a good domain.
Yeah.
Yes.